Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 55th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. Today, we are back with an Everything I Watched for September. Starting this month, I will be picking my 5 favorites of the month. No particular order. I am just going to highlight them as I go over the films. So, let's get right into it. I got a lot as usual. Barefoot Gen 2, 1986, directed by Toshio Hirata and Akio Sakai. Now, I watched the first Barefoot Gen last month, which I discussed, which was an incredible film. Heartbreaking, but incredible. Barefoot Gen 2 picks up with our characters, and this story, although still tragic, is much more lighthearted, and you can see the light at the end of the road. This was a fun movie. I had a good time with it. Not as effective as the first one, but a nice little sequel. Did it need to be made? Probably not, but it was a fun addition. So, would I recommend Barefoot Gen 2? Anime fans. If you're an anime fan, yeah, I'd recommend you can check it out, but obviously you need to watch the first one first. I'm going to give Barefoot Gen 2 a 7.5 out of 10. Julian Donkey Boy, 1999, directed by Harmony Korine. Now, Harmony Korine is a very divisive filmmaker. A lot of people think he's made some masterpieces. A lot of people think he is just pretentious trash. Me, I fall right in the middle. And I actually would call myself a Harmony Korine fan. I'm on Team Spring Breakers. I am. Okay. He wrote Kids, which is another one of my favorites. Gummo was that's a feast for the eyes. I don't know, it's a crazy one. But this movie here, Julian Donkey Boy, I actually thought was one of his better films. This film is about a schizophrenic guy, kid, person, and it's really just kind of a weird movie about going through this dude's life and kind of the interactions he has with the people around him. It's a very art house, freaky, weirdo film, but I think Chloe Sevigny gives an incredible performance in it. And there's something charming and heartwarming about this film that is really hard to put into words. I could not recommend Julian Donkey Boy to your average guy at all. This is a film for deep, deep cinephiles, art house fans, Harmony Korine fans, but this is not for everyone. But having said all that, I'm going to give Julian Donkey Boy a 7.7 out of 10. Five Easy Pieces, 1970, directed by Bob Rafelson. Now, I was really, really, really excited to watch this film. I heard nothing but great things. I know Jack Nicholson got the Oscar and everything for it. Five Easy Pieces. It's a good film, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was. Jack Nicholson gave a great performance. I thought he was good, but um, I didn't like his character very much. And I think because of that, it might have took me out of the film a little bit because I typically love Jack Nicholson and everything he's in. And having him in a movie does put me in a biased mindset because of how I do feel about this actor. Now, the film is about a guy who abandons his rich family to live a working class life that he carved out for himself, which is respectable. But a lot of his ways a lot of his ways from his past life have translated into his new one. And he does. I'm not even going to tell you what the film's about. I would recommend this film to 70s fans, Nicholson fans. It is a good movie. I did enjoy it. It just didn't have the punch I thought it was gonna have. But having said that, I'm going to give Five Easy Pieces a 7.4 out of 10. Mahanagar, also known as The Big City, 1963, directed by Sataji Ray. I think I got his name right. Now, this director here, he has directed the Apu trilogy. If you guys have seen that, it's an incredible 3 film series about a young man named Apu, and it just honestly goes through his life from childhood to adulthood, and it is incredible. Um, this director, he's something special. Everything I've watched from him has been nothing short of amazing, and this movie is my favorite movie by him now. I absolutely adored this film. I loved this film from start to finish. The lead actress was amazing. She was beautiful. It was incredible. This film is about a woman. It's a Bengali film. It's about a woman living in the big city, and she's married and she's a stay-at-home wife. But sh her family has fallen on some financial troubles, and so she gets a job in order to help out, and that's what the movie's about, and that's all I'm gonna tell you because I would highly, highly, highly recommend this movie to anyone. It's a strong, strong, film about, women stepping up in the world. It sends a very powerful message, has a great love in it. There's a lot to admire about this film, and based on when it came out, it was so relevant to when it came out. I think, and it's still relevant now, honestly. And I think anyone who watched it back in 1963, they probably were even more blown away by me. So I will say, The Big City is a top 5 watch of the month, and I'm going to give The Big City a 9.9 out of 10. I loved it, guys. Judgment Night, 1993, directed by Stephen Hopkins. Now, we're shifting gears here in films. Judgment Night. It's a film. You got Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Jeremy Piven, Dennis Leary. It's got a star-studded cast. It's about these guys who they get an RV and they plan to go to see this fight. And they take a wrong turn and end up in a wrong neighborhood, and a bunch of crazy stuff goes down. It's like a weird action thriller movie. I mean, I know a lot of people like this movie. I've heard a lot of people talk about this film, but all those people I've heard talk about this film that like this movie, they saw it when it came out. I was like 1 or 2 years old when this movie came out. I think this was one you kind of had to grow up with, and I didn't grow up with this film. Um, but it wasn't terrible. It was decent, but it wasn't great. But if you're a 90s action fan, I would definitely recommend this to you, but I couldn't recommend it to anyone else outside of that. I am going to give Judgment Night a 5.9 out of 10. Red, White, and Royal Blue, 2023, directed by Matthew Lopez. Now, I was on my anime kick a while ago. Now I'm on my LGBT kick. I've been watching tons of LGBT movies lately. I've always watched them, but I've been watching a lot lately. This film is based on the novel by the same name, and it's about two young, basically two sons of power, one in America, one in the UK, and they end up forming a homosexual relationship. But it's a little rom-com. It's a funny movie. I actually thought it was pretty decent. It was cute. I had a good time with it. Um, you know, Everything was done very well and tastefully. Nothing was too over the top. It was it's a very unbelievable story, but it was a fun story nonetheless. If you want a little different kind of rom-com to get down with, this is definitely a fun little date night movie or something. I could recommend this to you. If you like rom-coms, definitely could recommend this to you. So I'm going to give Red, White, and Royal Blue a 6.6 out of 10. I, Tanya, 2017, directed by Craig Gillespie. Okay. Tanya. I don't know what took me so long to watch this movie, but it's been sitting on my list for a long time. Finally sat down and watched it. It's a good film. It's a good film. I thought the performers were great. I did think Margot Robbie gave a pretty nice performance. I really, really liked Allison Janney as her mother. She was terrific. But I think Margot Robbie was miscast. And I really think, based on Tanya Harding, I was doing my research on this after I watched the film. Dude, they should have got Amy Adams to play her, man. They kind of looked alike in a weird way. And I feel like Amy Adams had more of her build and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if they even thought about her, but that would have been my first choice for this role. And I think Amy Adams would have brought a little more to this role than Margot Robbie did. But having said that, I, Tonya was a good movie. I think it was fun. It was funny. It was way different than I expected it to be, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time with it. I think it's a film I could recommend to anyone, especially if you were into figure skating back then. If you were around back when all that was going down, definitely check it out. So I'm gonna give I, Tanya a 7.4 out of 10. Bowfinger, 1999, directed by the legend Frank Oz. Bowfinger, Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy. What more do you want? This movie is hilarious, man. Now, I had seen this movie before, way back in 99 when I was a kid. And I remember liking it, but I didn't remember a lot from it because it's been over 20 years since I've seen it. But man, oh man, this movie was incredible. It was super funny. It's about a guy who he literally is trying to make a movie with a movie star that doesn't know they are in the movie. It's fun. It's a great movie about filmmaking. You know, it's a movie lover's movie, but it's also really hilarious. I actually think it's a film anyone could get on board with. Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin are freaking hilarious. They are gold in this movie. Definitely can recommend this to anyone. I'm going to give Bowfinger a 7.8 out of 10. The Harder They Come, 1972, directed by Perry Henzell. Now, The Harder They Come, this is technically a black exploitation movie. It's a Jamaican film. And I'll tell you what, you know it's a Jamaican film once you start watching it because some of these actors, their accents are so heavy. You feel like you're not even listening to someone speak English. It's kind of crazy, but it's super authentic. Jimmy Cliff, the legendary singer, he did a lot of songs for movies. I'm pretty sure he did a song for The Lion King. Still alive, still kicking hard. Legend in the game, in the music world. He was incredible in this film. This movie's about a guy who he goes to the big city essentially after his aunt dies. He goes to visit his mom, and he wants to start a music career, but the music industry in Jamaica is effed up, and he has to do some crazy stuff to get his point across. It's just a cool 70s little fun action music black exploitation film. If you like reggae music, black exploitation movies, this is right up your alley. I could recommend this. I would recommend this to black exploitations fans, 70s fans. I can't say it's for everyone, but I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to give The Harder They Come a 7.3 out of 10. Lady and the Tramp, 1955, directed by a whole bunch of dudes. The original Lady and the Tramp cartoon, come on, man. You know, if you've seen it, you know it's a banger. It's a great, great movie. I had a really fun time with it. Cute little love story about, the bad boy dog and the good girl prissy dog. And it's the classic bad boy goes for the girl next door type. It's fun and it's cool. It's done cool with animals. I thought it was a really great film, especially for when it came out. The animation looks incredible. Um, Nothing but good things to say about this movie, honestly. It's a classic. So I can, guys, about Lady and the Tramp. I can recommend this to anyone. I'm going to give Lady and the Tramp an 8 out of 10. Sancho the Bailiff, 1954, directed by Kenji Mizoguchi. Oh man, what a crazy film. Sancho the Bailiff is a movie about a woman who has to take her children and essentially go on the run with them to escape some tough times going on in her palace, and her kids get taken from her and she gets taken into slavery. So do her children, but they get separated. And man, oh man, this is a heartbreaking, tragic film that wow, I couldn't believe what I was watching. Sancho the Bailiff was an incredible film. It's considered one of the best movies of all time. And I fully understand why. I absolutely would have to agree. It's probably one of the best movies ever made. Having said all that, it does not make my top 5 of the month, and it was close, and it was hard to say it wasn't, but I didn't do it. But I would recommend this to anyone. I think this movie this is a tough, hard drama but it's incredible. It's a great watch, great family movie. I'm going to give Sancho the Bailiff a 9 out of 10. Leaving Las Vegas, 1995, directed by Mike Figgis. This is the movie Nicolas Cage got his Oscar for. And it was deserved, man. I love Nicolas Cage in this movie. But you know who I really loved in this movie? Elizabeth Shue. I think this was my favorite performance from her. I've never seen her like this. I love this from her. She was incredible. This movie is about a screenwriter who is a very, very bad alcoholic who wants to go to Vegas, leave everything behind, and drink himself to death. He ends up meeting a prostitute and they form a very interesting relationship. Guys, I would recommend this movie to absolutely anyone. It's a dope 90s movie and it's a Vegas movie. I love Vegas movies. Anyone who knows me knows I love Vegas and I love Vegas movies. One of the best cities and great movies made about it. Guys, I'm going to give Leaving Las Vegas an 8.2 out of 10. Bound, 1996, directed by the Wachowskis. Okay, so everyone knows the Wachowskis for The Matrix, which is obviously their magnum opus, and that movie will never be topped. But before that, they made a little film called Bound with two of the most gorgeous women from the 90s, Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly. This movie is about a woman who is in a relationship with a mob guy who meets another woman who is an ex-con. They form an interesting relationship and they plot to steal $2 million from the mob. Now, that probably sounds a little messy as a plot, but I'm going to tell you right now, this movie is fucking awesome. I absolutely had a great time with this film. I had never even heard of this movie, which is insane because I love 90s movies, but this movie just flew under the radar. I never hear anyone talk about it. It's a cool LGBT film. But you know, the LGBT, the relationship aspect of this film really does take a back seat to the action and the story. This is a cool story, and you can really see the early coming elements from the Wachowskis that we're gonna really see explored in The Matrix. Some cool action, some good acting. It can be a little over the top at times, but gosh darn it, this is a fun watch and you get to see two lovely ladies doing their thing on here. Gina Gershon, I just gotta say, is incredible. And I just respect that woman so much because she never went full Hollywood and she made the movies she wanted to make. That woman's a gem, man. Adore her. Bound is going to be a top 5 of the month. So, having said that, I'm going to give Bound a personal 9 out of 10. Kronos, 1993, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Don't quote me, but I believe this is maybe Guillermo's first movie or one of his first movies. You know, it's Halloween time, it's getting to that time. I've had to start watching horror stuff, and I want to do a vampire movie or video for you guys. So I'm watching vampire movies I've never seen. Kronos is one I had never seen. Very interesting vampire film. It's about an old guy who runs an antique shop who comes across an ancient artifact that has very mystical powers. It's a really cool film, and I thought it was very, very good for an early film for Del Toro. You can see his style all over it. It's a gorgeous film. You can see where he was gonna go later in life with Pan's Labyrinth and stuff like that, and the orphanage, all kinds of cool stuff. But this was the start of it, and I think Guillermo really brought it here. as far as a vampire movie goes, it's cool, but I thought it was just more of a vibe that I enjoyed for what it was. Um, I could recommend Chronos to, horror fans, creepy fans, vampire fans, but it's not your typical vampire movie, so think of it that way. I'm gonna give Chronos a 7.4 out of 10. But I'm a Cheerleader, 1999, directed by Jamie Babbitt. But I'm a Cheerleader, man. I had seen bits and pieces of this movie before, but I never watched it in its entirety, so I finally did, and I gotta say, it was hilarious, man. A lot of young stars in it. You got a young Michelle Williams in here, man. Man, who would have known what she'd become? You got Natasha Leone, like you got a bunch of cool people in here. Freaking, who plays a great role in here? RuPaul plays a great role in here. You got some heavy hitters. Fun little movie about a young girl in the 70s who has to go to gay camp to, get straightened out. And it's a total fun blast. It's a comedy. It's a great film. Like I said, I've been on my LGBT films lately, and it's all by accident. This wasn't a plan or anything, But for Pride Month, I'll have a great top LGBT films list. But I'm a Cheerleader's fun, man. It's a fun '90s comedy. I could recommend this to anybody. So I'm gonna give, but I'm a Cheerleader, a 7.6 out of 10. Charulata, 1965, directed by Satoshi Ray. Still think I'm butchering this man's name. Same guy from earlier who did The Big City. Charulata was hard. Hard not to make the top 5 of this month, but I didn't feel it was right to put 2 films from the same director in there. This movie was also very incredible. This director is insane. These Bengali films are great. This film is about a young woman. It stars the same woman from The Big City, gorgeous as ever. She is a lonely housewife, and her husband runs a political newspaper. His cousin ends up moving in, and she ends up falling in love with him. Guys, this film was absolutely incredible. I can't say it was as good as The Big City. The Big City hit me in a different way, but I enjoyed this very, very much. Something about this guy's style, he just knows how to capture. He just knows how to capture moments. He knows how to really he knows how to put you in the room with these guys. He knows how to make you feel the tension and the heat, and he doesn't need to show you a lot to do it. Highly recommend this to anyone. I'm going to give Charulata an 8.9 out of 10. SpongeBob 3, Sponge on the Run, 2020, directed by Tim Hill. All right, man, come on, it's SpongeBob. I'm a SpongeBob fan. I've been a SpongeBob fan since I was a kid. It's hilarious. It's SpongeBob. I'm not a fan of the 3D style very much. I miss the 2D art form. Rest in peace, Steven Hillenburg. I wish he was still around to be a part of this, but it's not bad. It's funny. I laughed at times. My man Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows voices Poseidon, so that's pretty cool. There's a lot of famous guest cameos, like Keanu Reeves is like in a lot of this, and like Danny Trejo and like a bunch of other people. It's kind of, I don't know. It was decent though, if you're a SpongeBob fan, I can recommend it. I'm gonna give SpongeBob 3 a 6 out of 10. Past Lives, 2023, directed by Celine Song. Past Lives is a movie I have been hearing about all year, and my lord, I've been wanting to see it so badly. I was going crazy. So, you know what I did? I just went ahead and pre-ordered it, the Blu-ray, and it came right to my door the day it was released. So I popped it on and I watched it. And I must report back that it does live up to the hype. And I will say this because the first half, I thought it was good, but I wasn't as impressed as everyone else seemed to be. But that last final 5 minutes of that movie pulls everything together and just hits you all at once. And I couldn't help but drop a couple of tears. I thought this was a very beautiful, poetic, and elegantly amazing film. I love this movie, and I would recommend this movie to absolutely anyone. And I'm not going to tell you what it's about. This is one I think you should just watch. Past Lives is a top 5 of the month, and I'm going to give Past Lives a 9.4 out of 10. The Killing, 1965, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Man, early Kubrick film, but gosh, this movie was awesome. Early heist film from Kubrick, and this is definitely one of the best heist movies ever made. You can see the influence in this movie all over. Slick crime noir style heist movie in the 50s, made by one of the best directors to ever freaking do it, and you can't go wrong with it. I absolutely love this movie. I adored it. I'm a huge fan, and this was close to also making a top 5. I could recommend this movie to anyone. I don't care if you don't like black and white films, older films. This movie is awesome. I'm going to give The Killing a 9 out of 10. A Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night, 2014, directed by Anna Lily Yamipour. Vampire movie. This is a Persian film. Black and white vampire movie. Very plotless. It's just about this girl who kind of roams around at night doing some vampire-y stuff. I absolutely I freaking I love this movie. I loved it. I love this movie so much. Like so much. I love vampire movies. I love them. They're some of my favorites. And this is now one of my favorites. I adored this movie so, so much. The only complaint I have with this film is I just wish it was in color. Not all of it. There's just certain things I just wanted to see in it that I just felt would have been so impactful if it had color to it. But gosh darn it, this movie is awesome. I I yeah, recommend I could recommend this to you if you like vampire films. But I don't know if it's for everyone. I'm going to give A Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night a personal 9 out of 10. And a personal top 5 of the month. Fast X 2023, directed by Louis Leterrier. Fast X, man. Come on. Fast and Furious. I know. A lot of people probably judge me right now for even watching it. Guys, Fast and Furious franchise is one of my guilty pleasures. It is. You know, I've seen all the movies a bunch of times. Fast X is a blast, dude. It's come on. Of course the action is ridiculous. It's over the top. It's just we're getting insane at this point. The story is getting all kind of crazy. It's a huge mess. Everything. But I had a freaking blast. And my man Jason Momoa was incredible. He was so great. If you don't watch this movie for any reason, you watch it for him. He blew me off the screen. He was just absolutely astonishing in every way. He was incredible. He blew me off the screen. I mean, if you're a Jason Momoa fan, you gotta watch this movie. This is one of his best roles. Like, when it's all said and done, people will remember him from Fast. Now, is this a great film? Hell no. But if you're a Fast fan, you're gonna like it. So, having said all that, it's kind of even hard to score it. I'm gonna give Fast X a personal 6.7 out of 10. Shiva Baby 2020, directed by Emma Seligman. Seligman. This movie was funny. It's got her name. What's her name? Rachel Sennott. She's blowing up, man. She's coming up big. She's awesome. This is a Jewish film, obviously by the title. I'm sure you could guess that. It's about this girl. She goes to a shiva, and a guy that she's been sleeping with in secret is there, and it just goes off the rails. It's kind of got like a death at a funeral vibe. It all pretty much takes place at this shiva. But it's a fun movie, man. I had a good time with it. I thought it was good. And this director here, I looked her up. She's only like 20 something years old, like 27 or 8. She just did Bottoms Up, which is blowing up. I think this is a chick we got to be looking out for, man. We could have the next Greta Gerwig on our hands. So I'm going to give Shiva Baby a 7.7 out of 10. All Dogs Go to Heaven, 1989, directed by Don Bluth. All Dogs Go to Heaven is a classic, man. Come on. Everybody knows it. My man Burt Reynolds, this is a good movie. Have fun with it. It's about this dog who dies, and he essentially is like, "Nah, man, I got things to do." And he kind of cheats the system and goes back to Earth. And, some things happen, of course. And, yeah, this is a classic most people have probably seen. It's a fun film. I had a great time with it. I could recommend this to anyone, especially kids fans. So I'll give All Dogs Go to Heaven 7.7 out of 10. Spotlight 2015, directed by Tom McCarthy. Now, Spotlight. This is a movie that blew up. It got a whole bunch of buzz. A lot of people already calling it one of the best movies of all time. And I will say I don't agree with that. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was a good film. I thought it was very informative. And I thought, I learned a lot of stuff. I did learn a lot of stuff that I didn't know. I thought it was a film that definitely should have been made. And I think it spread some good awareness. But having said all that, I don't think it was as powerful, as impactful as other people made it out to be. I thought it was well acted for the most part. It was well directed, but, you know, it didn't punch like I thought it was. Uh, I did enjoy it though. I did think it was a good film. I wouldn't say it was a bad film. I could recommend it. I mean, I think everyone should watch this movie at some point in their life, just to know what went on with all that stuff. Very, very tough subject matter. And some of the stuff you hear in this movie is difficult. But overall, I'll give Spotlight, I'll give it a respectable 8 out of 10. Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, 1974, directed by Michael Cimino. Michael Cimino is, to me, one of the most underrated directors of all time. His career got ruined because of Heaven's Gate, which is actually a masterpiece in its own right. I don't care what anyone says. Deer Hunter, that's an undeniable masterpiece, an insane movie. But Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, a fun little buddy up movie with two greats, a young Jeff Bridges and the man Clint Eastwood. This movie was fun as hell. 70s vibe all over it, cool car scenes. Dude, this movie was great. I had a very good time with this film. Honestly, it was close to being a personal top 5 of the month. Absolutely adored it. I'm going to give Thunderbolt and Lightfoot an 8.4 out of 10. Dracula, 1931, directed by Tom Browning and Carl Freund. Dracula 1931, man, it's way better than a film I'm going to talk about later. This movie, if for any reason I have to highlight just for what it did, this movie was so influential. This movie's been redone and recut a whole bunch of times, a whole bunch of different titles. You can see the influence on this movie in so many other films. I thought this was a very good film. The only issue is I've seen all these other movies that have stolen from this movie, so I feel like I watched something I already watched before. So, but it was nice to see the roots and where all this stuff came from. And this movie was highly influential. This movie was incredible. It was a great film. If you're into the story of Dracula, absolutely watch this. I'm going to give Dracula 1931 a 7.5 out of 10. Anchorman 2004, directed by Adam McKay. All right, I've seen Anchorman, but it has been a very long time, and I've been hearing a lot of people talk about it lately, so I just wanted to go back and check it out. Anchorman, it's funny, man. It's Anchorman. It's a funny Will Ferrell movie. I don't think it's his best. I don't think it's his funniest, but I do enjoy it. I really enjoy Christina Applegate in this movie. I think she's funny. Will Ferrell is funny. my man Baxter, that didn't have to happen to him. You know what I'm saying? Funny movie, it's a good time, but it's not the best. But I do enjoy it. So uh, I could recommend Anchorman to anyone. That's a good one you can just throw on with your friends and just let it ride. So I'll give Anchorman a 7 out of 10. Onward 2020, directed by Dan Scanlon. Onward, man, this was a movie that kind of flew under the radar too. I think because of the year it came out in. Fun Pixar movie. You got Chris Pratt. Sorry, I always make all these Chris's. Chris Pratt playing an interesting nerd guy, big dude, and you got Tom Holland's playing his little brother, and they're out to kind of have one last day with their father who is deceased. Hey, this movie didn't get talked about a lot, but I thought it was pretty good. I had a fun time with it. I thought Chris Pratt actually was a great voice role for him. Nah, could care less for Tom Holland in this. He was whatever, but I thought it was a pretty good movie. If you got kids, absolutely throw this on for them. They'll like it. You'll probably like it too. I'm going to give Onward a 7.2 out of 10. My Night at Maud's, 1969, directed by Eric Romer. A great French New Wave film. This is about a religious man who spends the night with a woman, and it kind of makes him question everything that he's been learning and living his life by. And that's all I'm going to say about this movie. Because this movie is one that I think you need to experience for yourself. I absolutely adored this movie. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant in every way. I thought its message was great. I love the ending. I love how things play out. It's a very talkative film, a lot of conversations going on, but if you like films, where people are really getting down and breaking subjects down, I think this is definitely one you would enjoy. Something about the French New Wave movement was just different, man. It was just different. Obviously, you had guys like Luc Godard and stuff, but Eric Romer's not a name you hear too much, but this guy really brought it with this. So, My Night at Maud's is a top 5 film of the month, and I'm going to give My Night at Maud's a 9.3 out of 10. The Last Dragon, 1985, directed by Michael Schultz. Bruce Leroy, come on, man. The Last Dragon. I've seen this before, but it's been quite some time. Man, I wanted to touch back on it. Last Dragon, man, it's a fun 80s karate movie with black people, yo. It's like a karate blaxploitation film in the 80s. Super fun. It's silly, obviously. But if you're an 80s action fan, this is definitely one you gotta watch. So I'm gonna give The Last Dragon a 6.8 out of 10. Blue is the Warmest Color, 2013, directed by Abdelatif Kinchichi. I know I screwed this dude's name up. This movie, another LGBT film. You got Leah Sado in this movie, who she's been blowing up lately. She's been doing Wes Anderson stuff and more American stuff, but this is also a French movie. This movie here, my lord, what a film. Interesting story about a younger girl who starts exploring her sexuality, honestly, and she falls in love with a woman, an older woman, and they come from completely different lives. And it's just very interesting and fun to see how these two relationship plays out and how things go. This movie has a lot of interesting stuff in it. It's a long boy. It's like 3 hours. NC-17. And trust me, it's rated that for a reason. Um, I would, if you're a French art house fan, honestly, I wouldn't even call this an art house movie, but it has a lot of art house type elements to it. It has a lot of stuff in it that a lot of people would kind of be like, what the hell? But also, there's a lot of beautiful moments in this movie. It's a gorgeous film. I do have this Criterion Blu-ray, and it looks amazing. So I could recommend this to you. Yeah, if you like good love story. I'm going to give Blue is the Warmest Color an 8 out of 10. Death Becomes Her, 1992, directed by Robert Zemeckis. So I went into this movie thinking it was gonna be way worse than it was. This movie you got the great legendary Meryl Streep, the great legendary Bruce Willis, and you got Goldie Hawn. Now I'm not a huge Goldie Hawn fan. She's alright, but she was pretty good in this movie. But this movie is about two women who essentially are in love with the same man and they're sisters and they're pretty much just going at it. But there's a whole element of coming back from the dead and all this stuff. So it's a fun little weird kind of horror-y romance. I don't even know. It's wacky comedy. It's all kinds of stuff. This movie's all over the place, but in the best possible way. I really did enjoy this film. I thought Meryl Streep was incredible. She played a great role. I actually thought Goldie Hawn was pretty good. Robert Zemeckis, one of his more fun, interesting films. So I did like this. I'm going to give Death Becomes Her a 7.4 out of 10. Flushed Away, 2006, directed by Sam Fell and David Bowers. Flushed Away, out of some of the other movies, I think this is a DreamWorks boy. Out of the Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit Camp, this would be the weakest one, I think. Flushed Away, you got Hugh Jackman, you got my girl Kate Winslet, but it's about this fancy little mouse who ends up getting flushed down a toilet and he starts, slumming it up for a little bit, but he's trying to get back to his home. Simple story for a kid's movie. There's some cool little funny moments in it, but overall, it was alright. It wasn't that great. Your kids might like it. I recommend it if you got kids, but it's if you miss it, you won't die. I'm going to give Flushed Away a 6.3 out of 10. What's Up, Rockers, 2005, directed by Larry Clark. Now, being a skateboarder, I used to love this movie back in the day, and I hadn't seen it. It's been at least 15 years. So, I was like, man, let me go back and revisit. I remember liking that movie. Man, this movie hasn't aged well. It really hasn't. Um, there's a lot of it's Larry Clark, and I love Larry Clark. Bully and Kids are still classics forever, but I don't know. What's Up Rockers just lacks the charm that other Larry Clark films has. Of course, it's you deal with non-actors or first-time actors in this, and you get a lot of interesting performances. And I think the chemistry between the kids is pretty good. But as a one day kind of everything going crazy story, he did a much better job with kids. So I'm sorry, Larry Clark, but I'm gonna have to give What's Up Rockers a 5 out of 10. Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle, 2017, directed by Matthew Vaughn. Now, The Kingsman is one of the coolest action movies to come out in the last 10 years. The Kingsman 2, although fun and pretty good, it ain't touching The Kingsman. It's decent, continuing the story, Eggsy's back, Colin Firth is back, Mark Strong's back. You got Pedro Pascal in here, early role for him. Well, not early, but a early big role for him. You got Channing Tatum randomly in this. You got some cool guys. It's decent. If you like the first Kingsman, I would check it out, but I won't say you'll die if you don't see it. I'm gonna give the Kingsman 2 a 6.7 out of 10. Showgirls, 1995, directed by Paul Verhoeven. Now, I did an entire review on this movie, okay? And I will link that down below if you'd like to check it out. Showgirls, starring Elizabeth Berkley and the lovely Gina Gershon, is a film about a young girl who goes to Vegas to be a dancer, and she learns how effed up this world can be. Guys, this movie, obviously, I know anyone watching this knows what Showgirls is, at least if you haven't seen it. I've seen this movie before, but it's been a while, and I kind of wanted to go back and see it and see if it's as bad as people still think it is. And let me tell you, it is freaking great. Showgirls is a fun time. First of all, it's a Vegas movie. Love Vegas movies. Second of all, the leads are gorgeous. You got great stuff to look at the whole time. You got the beautiful lights, you got the beautiful dance numbers, you got the cool costumes. Like, the acting is ridiculous in parts. Some of the scenes shouldn't be here. There is a lot to not like about this movie, but there's just way too much to like about this movie to deny it. So, having said that, I'm going to give Showgirls a 7.3 out of 10. Mysterious Skin, 2004, directed by Greg Akari. Okay, LGBT, we back at it. Um, this was a movie. This was a movie. And I don't even know what to say about it. I gotta say it was a powerful film. It made a statement. This film is about two boys who experiences some childhood trauma, and it follows them and shows how this same trauma affected these boys differently. And it is a brilliant, brilliant film. I believe it's based on the novel of the same name. And part of me wants to read it, but a part of me doesn't because this movie was so brutal. And I know the novel's only going to be 10 times worse. So I don't know if I can handle it, man. But I will say, if you like a powerful, hard hitting drama, good LGBT film, guys, you should definitely check this out at least one time. I can't ever say that I will watch this movie again, but I will say I thoroughly enjoyed it and I thought it was brilliant. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt should have got an Oscar nom for this one, man. I'm going to give Mysterious Skin an 8.7 out of 10. Miss Congeniality, 2000, directed by Don Petrie. Now, we've all seen Miss Congeniality before. Of course we have. It's a funny Sandra Bullock movie. I hadn't seen it in about 15 years, so I just wanted to watch it. It's a good time. It's silly, stupid cop movie. Nothing crazy. You guys know what the story is. I'm going to give Miss Congeniality a 6.5 out of 10. Blade 2, 2002, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Two Guillermos on the list for this month. Two vampire movies. So, I've been rewatching vampire movies to get ready to make my best vampires movies list, and I must say, Blade 2 is a fun film. I don't know if I like it more than the first one, but there are things that I really admire about it, and the main thing is its ambition. Guillermo went for it with this, and I think he had a hit. Fun film. You get an early performance from the dude who plays Daryl Dixon in Walking Dead. He looks like a baby in this. It's crazy. This movie's a good time, man. If you're a vampire action fan, of course, a Blade fan, I would definitely check this out. So, I'm going to give Blade 2 a 7 out of 10. The Talented Mr. Ripley, 1999, directed by Anthony Minghella. Early Matt Damon role, and boy, oh boy, he played the hell out of this. This movie was crazy, man. Young Matt Damon, young Jude Law, young Gwyneth Paltrow, young Philip Seymour Hoffman. A lot of good actors in here, a lot of good performances. Talented Mr. Ripley, I believe this is based on a novel as well. Follows a man who essentially steals someone's life after they murdered them. I ain't gonna lie, I had no idea what I thought this movie was gonna be going into it. I heard about it all these years. I've been wanting to see it for a long time, but I had no clue what I was going into. But holy hell, this movie was crazy. But having said that, I don't think it was as good as some people think it is. A lot of people put it up there. I don't think this is Matt Damon's best movie, and I don't think it's his best performance, but I respect it a lot, and I thought it was very well executed. So, having said all that, I am going to still give The Talented Mr. Ripley a respectable 8 out of 10. In a year of 13 moons, 1978, directed by the great legendary Rainier Fassbinder. Okay, my favorite German director. Absolutely love him. And don't get me wrong, I love Fritz Lang too, but man, Rainier was the guy. Another LGBT film. Um, this movie, it was powerful, man. It's about a trans woman who is honestly just struggling to find her way in life. And she has a lot of things going on, and a lot of things going on in her past that have affected how she is in her present. And this is not a movie for everyone. It has a strong, powerful scene in it where you have to see some very graphic images of butchery, with animals. And he forces you to watch this because it is a German film and you do have to, if you're American, you're going to have to read it. He does force you to look at this because a lot of, subtext is going on during the scene. And me being someone who's against things like that, I thought this was a good statement he made in it, and I respected him for that. Um, and I'm not sure exactly what his point was. I'm not sure what he was trying to get across there. I'd have to analyze it a little bit more. But knowing Rainier as a director and some of the things he went through, I think he showed us this to, make us empathize with this a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. I thought this was a great film, but I can't recommend it to everyone. It's not one of his best films, but he's so good. Like, this is still a great film, even though it's not one of his best. So I'm gonna give In a Year of 13 Moons an 8 out of 10. Dracula, Dead and Loving It, 1995, directed by Mel Brooks. Now I've been on my vampire stuff and getting ready for this vampire list, and I watched this spoof Mel Brooks movie about Dracula, and I gotta say this was not a great film. It wasn't great. It had its moments. I did laugh at some parts. Don't get me wrong. The part where the dude drives a stake through the girl's heart and the blood splat, like I did laugh hard at that. I thought Renfield was good. Leslie Nielsen, he was all right. But overall, this movie was just too stupid, man. It was not great. Definitely a strikeout for Mel Brooks. This is not classic Mel Brooks, if you ask me. But I'm glad it exists. I'm glad he made it. And I'm glad I watched it. It was worth watching. It's something that I think if you're a vampire fan or definitely a Dracula fan, I definitely think this is something you need to watch. But don't go into it expecting to be blown away. At least I wasn't. But I'm gonna give Dracula Dead and Loving It a 5.5 out of 10. A Most Violent Year, 2014, directed by J.C. Chandor. Two of my favorite current working actors in it, the lovely Jessica Chastain and my boy Oscar Isaacs, play some good roles in this movie. This movie's about a man who works his way from the ground up in the oil, I guess like the oil transport business. They don't really specify exactly what it is he does, but we know he transports oil or gasoline or whatever, something like that. I wasn't really invested in that. I was more invested as to what was happening to this guy in this movie. This is kind of a tragic story in a weird way. Um, Man, great performance from Oscar. I thought this was one of his better performances. This movie was quite good. Slow burner movie, it's not a lot of crazy stuff happens, but it's one of those movies that just makes you think. It's really a character study at the end of the day. Um, it kind of gave me a There Will Be Blood vibe, but Oscar Isaac's character is the total opposite of Daniel Plainview. I'm gonna give A Most Violent Year a 7.8 out of 10. The Northman, 2022, directed by Robert Eggers. Hey, a fun little Viking movie, very different than, like The Witch and stuff, but you can see that style still all over it. He brought his girl back, Anya Taylor, who was great in this, as she always is. She's incredible. This movie was fun, man. Violent as hell, super cool, stylistic. Eggers has a style. I like it. I can't say it's a film for everybody, but if you're an action fan, oh, this is definitely up your alley. If you like some hard, cool period pieces, this is definitely something you should check out. So I'm gonna give The Northman a 7.4 out of 10. Nosferatu, 1922, directed by F.W. Murnau. Okay, So I had to watch this movie, right? I had to watch the most classic vampire movies. First things first, guys, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not crazy about silent films. Okay. There are some that I like. There are some that I think are very, very great. This isn't one of them, guys. And I've never been so let down. I went into this film expecting to just fall in love with it. I went to this film expecting it to be a silent film that I was gonna jump on board with, and I just can't. It was so boring. I was starting to doze off. It was just slow. I respect the costume designs, and I think the actors actually were good, but the score was horrible. The score didn't work, at least not for me. You know, it just paced like a snail, and for an hour and a half movie, I feel like nothing happened in it, and I felt like it was 3 hours long. It was really a tough watch for me, and I hate saying that because I wanted to really like this movie. I wanted to give it its praises, and I know a lot of people were praise and respect, and if you like it, obviously, that's cool, but I'm sorry, guys, this wasn't it for me. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, unless you're a silent film fan. I'm going to give Nosferatu 1922 a 4.8 out of 10. Bones and All 2022, directed by Luca Guadagnino. Okay, this movie here is a total opposite film from Nosferatu. I love this movie. I adored it. It was gross as hell, but I adored it. It's about a young woman who's a cannibal, and she belongs to essentially a group of people that they call themselves eaters, and they are all cannibals. She goes on a road trip and meets a young eater, Timothy Chalamet, who was incredible in this movie, by the way. And they form an interesting romance through all of this cannibalism. It's a dope road trip movie. The performances are great. I thought it was a cool story. Um, Halloween time, man. This is a good one to watch for the spooky season. I actually really like this movie. There was it was a vibe to it that I just really enjoyed. I'm going to give Bones and All a 7.8 out of 10. Last, but certainly not least, Elemental 2023, directed by Peter Son. Elemental, man, this movie, they say it underperformed. They say it wasn't that great. They were like, Pixar's falling off. I'm here to disagree with everyone. I enjoyed Elemental. I thought the art looked terrible though. I would be honest. I was watching Armored and I was like, Armored looks 20 times better than Elemental and it's 3 years older. But that's neither here nor there. Elemental as a story was fun. Elemental as a movie was fun. I did have a good time with it. I think too many people were trying to compare it to things like Inside Out and stuff like that. It's not Inside Out. It's an entirely different film. Is it as good as Inside Out? No. Inside Out is one of the best movies ever made. But Elemental has a charm to it that we haven't seen from Pixar in a little while. And although I would say, in my opinion, the best recent Pixar movie is probably Luca, I think that Elemental is better than Turning Red. I think it's way better than Lightyear. It's not as good as Luca, but I think it does have the charm that Luca did have, man. And I ain't gonna lie, the ending almost put a tear in my eye. It was a very, very touching film. Definitely put it on for your kids. I could recommend Elemental to anyone. So I'm going to give Elemental a 7.5 out of 10. Guys, I know we ran long today. I'm sorry, but thank you for watching my Everything I Watched this month. Let me know if there's a film or topic you would like me to go over a review. Guys, check me out on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. I'll link that below. My buddy and I, we have a podcast, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that below if you're interested in more movie content. Like and subscribe if you made it this far. Appreciate you guys. I will have another video out this weekend for you, but I will see you soon. And don't forget the popcorn.